Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1198.
I always kind of like if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, don't change the goal.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from Purcell, Oklahoma, Jeff Page. Hey, Jeff, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I'm locked and loaded. Let's go.
All right. Love it. Jeff Page is the founder and head builder at Heartland Customs, located in, like I said, Purcell, Oklahoma. His custom builds have been featured on numerous television shows and in car magazines as well. He has earned multiple top Good Guys and ISCA awards for his builds. Jeff has formed a partnership with the National Corvette Museum where his builds are archived and authenticated by the museum. Jeff also has a license to build authenticated Resto-Mod 1967 through 69 Yenko Camaros and 69 through 70 Yenko Chevelles using original bodies. I had the pleasure of meeting Jeff and seeing his GM Design Car of the Year award winner at SEMA, his 1958 Spec Vet that he designed and built. That was on display at the Covercraft booth. Oh my gosh, this car was absolutely insane. Loved it. So Jeff, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little bit more about your career, your business, and a very obvious passion for building very cool cars?
I've always been a car guy ever since I can remember when I was a kid, even back to, I watched the normal repertoire of Smokey and the Bandit and Dukes of Hazzard and the
yeah.
van and you name all those cars and I can probably kind of timeline my entire childhood growing up by all the car shows and car movies that I watched. And it just kind of got me into the car thing. So I've always loved cars, loved everything about it, loved the culture, loved the people that you meet in that. And so when I got out of high school, some people go on to college. College wasn't for me. I tried it. I actually tried it a couple times and it just wasn't my thing. I knew I wanted to do something with cars and all that, but it actually, after I tried the college thing, I then decided to go into the Navy. So I was in the U.S. Navy for 4 years.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. 2 years up in Washington State, and I did 2 years down in San Diego. And
nice.
And got out of the Navy, and then that's when I finally was like, okay, I've tried the college thing, I've tried the military thing. I'm going to do what I love to do, and so that's when I started Heartland Customs in 2007. And let's see, so we'll be 12 years in February.
Well, congratulations. This is a really great story because I love it. College is not for everybody, and I love it when people decide, what, this isn't right. I shouldn't stay in here and keep doing this. I need to go do what I need to do. Like I said, thanks for your service to go off and give that a shot and see if that was something you wanted to go down. But sounds like all those days of growing up around the car stuff, you knew in your heart you wanted to be a car guy. And I'll tell our listeners, the quality of builds that this guy, Jeff, builds, oh my gosh, absolutely spectacular. We're going to talk a little bit about that wonderful Corvette I saw at SEMA in the Covercraft booth. But first, as we continue on your journey, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra. This is a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, Jeff, take the wheel.
I would have to say not much for quotes too much, but as far as a mantra, I always kind of like if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, don't change the goal. And that kind of falls right in there in line with, I knew what I wanted to do. I tried college, I tried the military, I tried all those things, but I always had the goal in mind of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be in the automotive industry. And so I had to kind of change the plan a few times to figure it out. I always had the same goal in mind and then finally achieved it.
I love that whole concept, and I would imagine that falls into place very nicely when you're building a custom car, because no doubt you run up against things that you go, oh my gosh, I didn't see this one coming. How have you incorporated that into how you build a car? I mean, you start out with a goal, obviously. That's where you need to be. But I'd imagine there's a lot of bizarre things that pop up.
There is, one of the things that people come to Heartland Customs for, rather than some other car builders, is there doesn't seem to be anything that we can't accomplish. I get some customers that come in here with some requests that would blow your mind, and we make it happen. And you just have to figure out a way to make it work. And sometimes I heard a really good line that somebody at SEMA had told me. My very first year I went to SEMA, and they said, if you don't have a customer that'll allow you to put 300 or 400 hours into a custom part, and then when you hate it, just throw it in the trash, then that you probably don't want to build a custom car for that person if they won't allow you to do that. And it kind of shocked me, because you think what 300 or 400 man hours cost somebody to just throw that piece in the trash is kind of insane. But at the same time, when you build a fully custom car where every piece is custom designed and hand fabricated, there's a lot of those pieces sometimes that just don't work out. And so, again, there you are. You got a goal to get it done, but you're going to have to change the plan quite a few times. Same way, if you build a car for SEMA, you're just asking for it then, because then all those things that are going to normally happen are going to happen in a condensed schedule, especially that week or two right before SEMA. You don't get to sleep or eat.
No, I know. Every time I go to SEMA, and this past SEMA was my 30th year attending that event, and I'm just amazed at the number of vehicles, but more so knowing so many builders as I do, I just walk through going, I can't imagine what the last 2 months were like if you put all these guys and gals together of getting to this point. I mean, the stress level and the anxiety and the hours and the blood, sweat, and tears and the screaming and ranting and the smiles, all this stuff combined, it just blows me away. So I would imagine one little thing I heard with that comment was, which could be a golden nugget, is if you're building something custom and it's just not working, do not force it.
Absolutely. Sometimes, and we kind of even have a motto here at our shop where there's something that's just beating you up and you just can't get, it could be a screw. You can't get this screw to go in. It's something all the time. And sometimes I just tell people, walk away, just walk away, clear your brain, go do something else for an hour or two, or maybe even you just it's close to the end of the day. You just clock out, go home, sleep on it. You come back the next day and the screw goes in on the first try. It happens all the time. That's kind of something that you just sometimes you got to do. You don't want to force it. If you force it, you're going to cause an issue that's going to be a lot bigger thing to fix than what you actually work.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly. I married a very smart woman, and that's one of the things she tells me when I'm kind of beating my head against the table here or whatever. She goes, you know what? Walk away. Your brain will work on it while you're asleep.
Yep.
And just get away from it for a while. Get those fresh eyes on it at another time. That whole forcing thing is the same with relationships with people. If something's not working right, forcing it is not going to make it better. That's for sure. Sometimes you got to walk away, take a breath, rethink. Well, let's talk about a story that instigated your personal passion for cars. You got to talk about, growing up with a car culture surrounding you, and then trying the college thing, doing the military thing, but realizing that I've got to go build cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you just that you can remember that was so crystal clear that this is what I have to go do?
I do. I think the first time I sat in an old car that was actually mine was a 68 Camaro. Even now I'm 39 years old, and I can still remember what it smelled like, what the steering wheel felt like the first time I sat in that car. And it was, the car was rusty at that point, and the vinyl on the seats was all torn. And I mean, it was just a mess, but I still remember what that feels like. And I can still remember the moment that I sat in that car, and it was almost kind of like a lightning bolt to the head. When I sat in there, that I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to figure out a way that I can be around these cars and make these cars beautiful, because, you see the pictures and things of them when they were new and how amazing they were, and what a huge part of like Americana that they were, and bringing those cars back to as nice or even better than they were when they were brand new. I knew at that moment that was what I wanted to do.
It's amazing to me how that sensory thing can happen. I was just shooting a few weeks ago. I'm going to be having a new TV show, Cars Yeah TV show, in the new year here. And we went down and shot at a guy's shop, Joey Giordano, who has Straight Up Dubs, and he restores old VW bugs and buses and Ghias. And I had a Ghia in high school, and he had a Ghia there, and I sat in it, and it just, it was like all this stuff came rushing back from when I was in high school and going surfing and driving the car up the mountains to go skiing, and to look and feel the car. It just, and the smell. It's like it was right there. Isn't that weird?
It is very strange, and I've always called them time machines because we've built cars before that we'll have at a show, and I may have an older guy or gal come up to me, and they always want to tell you a story. If it's a 69 Camaro, they want to tell you the story about the 69 Camaro that they had when they were growing up, or maybe a 56 Bel Air or whatever it was. They always want to touch the car. They want to kind of be part of that car because it reminds them of their childhood. And if you let them sit in that car, it's really kind of crazy to watch the look on their face because the car almost becomes a time machine. It almost takes them back to when they were kids and remember riding in the back seat of that car with their parents and things like that. So yeah, they have a big effect on us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and talk about a big challenge or a failure. Being an entrepreneur, running your own business, oh my gosh, there's a lot of ups and downs to this stuff. A lot of things you don't see coming sometimes. Some things you see coming, you don't want to have them hit you in the face. But I'd love for you to share a specific situation that challenged you. Walk us through it and tell us how that experience helped you gain even more momentum and what you learned from it so you could move forward.
Probably around 2011, the economy was kind of rough in this country. And when it was, when the economy takes a downturn, then folks tend to not spend money on restoring cars or building custom cars or toys or however you want to look at them. That's not what they're spending the money. They kind of grab their wallets and hold them close. So that was kind of rough, I think, for everybody in the industry around that 2011 mark. And it was really rough on us because at that point, Heartland Customs was just like every other restoration shop out there. And you pretty much, in your early years of being a shop, you're taking whatever falls in the door. If somebody calls you and says, hey, I want you to restore a 75 Econoline van or something, you're like, hey, whatever,
Yeah,
you're paying.
Sounds good to me.
Great. I'll do whatever to keep the doors open and pay the overhead. And so that's kind of what we were doing up to that point, like everybody was doing. And when that economy took a downturn, I basically had to come in here and I had to let everybody go in the shop. We had one car. We had a 29 Model A Roadster in here, and we were doing a complete ground up restoration of this car. I think I had 5 guys at the time, and I was like, I can't pay 5 people plus myself to sit here and work on one car, and that's just not going to work. And so I did. I basically had to come in here. I had to let everybody go. And I was the only one left here in the shop for an entire year. And I basically didn't take a paycheck. I basically lived off my wife's income. She was the director of the Chamber of Commerce here, and we lived off her paycheck for an entire year just so that what I made working on that Model A went straight to keep the lights on down here at the shop. That was definitely my challenge. That was when we were kind of the rock bottom of the company. But it's kind of crazy because that year allowed me to work on that Model A during the day. And then I didn't go home until probably 10 or 11 o'clock every night. I was down here from 7 in the morning till 10 or 11. And I was either working on that car or I was figuring out a way to change the plan. I knew that our company couldn't survive doing things the way that we were doing it and the way that all these other shops that were doing it that were also going out of business and things. And so that year gave me the chance to come up with my spec program, which is what changed, which completely turned around my whole company. And that's our program that we have now for Corvettes and Camaros and Chevelles. And now we just started our new truck program where you choose the year that's your favorite vehicle. And then we modernize it to a full resto mod, but it looks just like the way it was when it was original. And it's all done at a set price. And I wouldn't have, had we not kind of died in 2011, I wouldn't have had the time to come up with that program and figure out all the, how much is it got to cost and how many hours does this vehicle take and what do we got to do for what options can be available? What does each one of those options cost? All those things. I mean, I probably got thousands of hours into figuring all that stuff up, and had the economy not gone bad and me been here with that one car, I never would have had the opportunity to do all that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and it's a really important story because it tells me, the takeaway I get from this is, even when your business is good, you've got to find a time to stop working in your business and work on it. Because times will change, things will change, something will affect you that is not your fault from the outside or within or whatever it might be. But to take that time to rethink how your business could be different. And I've heard this from many, many builders who either went through that time and survived because they were diversified, they were doing other things on top of restoration, or people that weren't and ended up like you and had to figure out a new direction. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Is that kind of your big aha moment in your business? It sure sounds like it.
I think that definitely was part of it. Another kind of aha moment that I had was, when it all kind of the light bulb flicked on for me was when I was actually in the Navy. My dad, who's an optometrist here in Purcell, he had always wanted a 61 Corvette. His older brother had had one when they were younger, and that was like his dream car. Well, he was finally in a place in life that, kids were all grown and gone and all that, and he wanted to build him a 61 Corvette. So my grandfather was a mechanic and had taught my dad all the mechanic skills. And that's who taught me all of my mechanic skills. And I was in the Navy. I was actually on the whole other side of the world, and through email, I helped design that car with him. And then he was the one here actually hands-on building the car. So we built the car together just from two different sides of the globe. And then when I got out of the Navy and came back, he was in kind of the final home stretch on that car, and we actually got to finish it together. And so when we did that, this was before the word resto-mod was even a word. There were guys that were putting some better suspension and doing suspension swaps and disc brakes and stuff like that to improve old cars. But to actually take one and fully modernize every system in the car to where it was like a modern sports car had not really been done too much. And if it had, nobody had coined the term for it yet. And so that's basically what he wanted to do. Is he said, I want it to look like the 61 Corvette that my brother had, but I don't want it to drive like the 61 Corvette my brother had, because that was basically like a log wagon. So that's what he basically did, is we figured out suspensions that we could, mock up into the original chassis, and then boxing the frame on the chassis to make it stronger. And then that was even kind of before the aftermarket AC units and things like Vintage Air and all that were really big. So, he basically took late model air conditioning and figured out how to, kind of jailbreak the system and get in there and learn how it worked and how to integrate it into a kind of an aftermarket universal system for his car. And so he did all these things on this car, and we kind of did it together via email. And then when I got back, we finished it up. And of course, he wanted to take it to some car shows and stuff like that and show off his work. And we took it, and everywhere we took it, there were 200 people around this car. There could be 1,000 cars at the car show, and there might be 2 or 3 people looking at each car. And then there would be 100 people around his car, where people were waiting in line to get up there to take pictures of it, because they couldn't believe that the car looked like it did in 61. But everything in there was like a brand new sports car, and everybody's going, who did this? This is amazing. And, all that. Well, I'm a car guy, and I kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit. And when I'm standing back and I'm seeing that, that's when
the light bulb came on.
Light bulb flipped on. And I said, okay, if I'm here at a car show and there's 300 people standing here and 200 of them are over here thinking this is the most amazing thing they've ever seen, I'm sure there's other people that would agree and would like us to do something like that for them. And that's kind of what started the whole company. So that was definitely my aha moment.
Oh, it's an awesome story. And the fact that your dad was involved makes it even better. I mean, it's really heartwarming. You mentioned Vintage Air. I was fortunate to have Rick Love, who's the executive VP of Vintage Air, as a guest here on Cars Yeah back in, I think it was February of 2017. He was guest number 700, something like that. Great guy, great company. Want to do a little shout out to him, but wonderful story there, Jeff. That's awesome. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special car. Maybe share a memory you have about that vehicle.
This is probably the best story I've got right here. And that is when I was 14, as a car guy or girl, when you're getting close to 16 years old, you got to start figuring out what you're going to have for a first car. And it's not going to be a Prius. You've got to figure out something cool. And we got to have some horsepower, and it's got to smell like America when you fire it up. And, it's got to be something cool. So I started looking around about the time I'm probably close to 15, but I think I'm maybe mid 14 years old. And my mom comes up to me and she goes, "Well, what about a 68 Camaro?" And I go, this is, I think, 1994. And yeah, what 16-year-old in Purcell, Oklahoma has a 68 Camaro? And she goes, "Well, that was my first car." She says, I guess she had straight A's and had done everything that she was supposed to do growing up. And my grandfather asked her what car that she wanted, and she saw this 68 Camaro on a billboard and said, "I want that one. I want it just like that." And he actually went and bought her a 68 Camaro that looked like the one of the billboards.
Cool mom.
Yeah, cool mom and cool grandpa, to buy her that car. So she actually had that car for about 2 years. In 1970, she traded it in. Funny part about that is the dealership that she traded it in at is now Heartland Customs. My building is a 1949 Buick Pontiac GMC dealership.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet.
It's got the big glass bubble showroom on and all that from the late 40s, early 50s. Very cool nice building, and we've restored the whole thing. So it's a really neat place. But this is the actual dealership where she traded that Camaro in.
Man, oh man, that's that is awesome.
Yeah, she traded it in for a 70 Buick Grand Sport, which is also a cool car too. But So mom's also she's a car girl. Dad's a car guy. So, I can't imagine where I get it from. So when I'm 14, she says, I had a 68 Camaro, and she's telling me the whole story. Well, then I kind of, start getting curious, and I'm like, I wonder where that car is, that 68 Camaro is. And I start asking my dad, and he says, well, the people that bought it, the second owners that bought it from this dealership, they still live in Purcell. So he makes a phone call, and they said, well, our daughter still has the car. She lives in Florida now, but she still drives it as her daily driver.
Man,
and they give me her phone number. So my dad calls her down in Florida and ask her, would you sell it, whatever. And she goes, well, it's about time. It's got 264,000 miles on it. She's driving it every day. The salt water, it was a vinyl top car, and the salt water had just eaten the vinyl top off, and the floor pans were gone. And I mean, it was pretty rough from the salt water down there in Florida. And he works a deal with her, and he bought it, I think, for like $1,500. I mean, it was dirt cheap, but the car was, pretty bad condition.
Yeah.
So, my dad is kind of, his hobby was he had owned a little Cessna airplane with about 4 or 5 other guys. And so we hop in the Cessna airplane, and it's me who's 14. It's my cousin, who I think was like 17, and my mom. And we get in there with my dad, and he flies us to Florida. She meets us at the airport in the Camaro. And we get out. My dad turns around and takes off and flies back to Oklahoma. And we get in the Camaro and we drive it all the way Florida to Oklahoma.
Whoa.
The starter goes out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I had to put a new starter on in the parking lot in Baton Rouge, which was exciting. And then we got the car all the way back to Oklahoma. And it was funny because we were joking the whole time. I remember talking about how it was like a Flintstones car, because if you picked up the mats, you could
see the road.
And the roof was all rusted out, so it looked like a starry night when you looked up there from all the pinholes. So we got the car back, and me and my dad, over a 9-month period, stripped it all the way down to bare steel and completely restored that car. So my mom's first car was my first car.
Oh, man.
Car.
That is the coolest story I think I've heard. That is so nice.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful, too, that you guys drove it back. What a wonderful experience for you to have with your mom. Oh, my gosh. I
don't know if it was the smartest thing we ever did to drive a 264,000-mile Camaro halfway across the United States. But, yeah, it's definitely a memory that's stuck.
You made it. That's all that matters. Wow. What an awesome story. Got goosebumps on that one. How about seller's remorse? Is there a car you've let go that you really wish you had back?
I had a 50 Chevy pickup, 55 window pickup, short bed. I love that truck. A guy came by here at the shop and sold it, and I bought it really, really cheap, and it was a running, driving truck, straight six. I drove it around, just kind of parked it out in front of the shop. It was kind of neat. I did the old sign painters writing on the door and put the Heartland Customs winged logo on there, and it was just kind of a neat little shop truck, kind of run and get parts and things like that. I didn't really fix it up. It was just a flat black. I'm pretty sure it was painted with a rattle can. I set that out there, and I think about 3 or 4 weeks after I bought the truck, a guy came in here and offered me about 7 times what I bought it for, and I sold it. And that was probably the truck that I really loved. I really loved that truck, and I just loved the oldness of it and the smell of it and the big, huge steering wheel. And I loved how it drove like crap, which is kind of crazy because what I do for a living is make them not drive like crap.
Right. Yeah.
But something about that, I just love the fact that it was bad and it was kind of ran all over the road when you try to drive, and suspension steering was worn out, and I'm sure there were mice living under the seat. But I love that truck. I wish I hadn't sold that truck. And what's kind of neat about that is about 6 months ago, I had a guy walk in the shop and he says, "I've got an old truck that I need to sell." And typically when somebody comes in here and they say, "I've got an old truck to sell," that's like a 92 long bed, that nobody wants.
Right.
And so I go, "Okay, what do you got?" And he says, "It's a 55 window Chevy pickup, short bed,
Whoa.
6." And I go, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he says, I'm asking $3,000 for it. And I said, $3,000? And he shows me a picture. It's red. And it looks great in pictures. And I'm going, okay. And it's about 15 minutes away. And so we drive over there and we get the truck, look at it, and it doesn't run and all that. But I'm like, it runs. I know these old cars and trucks, if you put some gas in them, put the battery in them, they'll fire up. It never fails. They're built like tanks. So I make a deal, and actually, I talked him down to $2,500, which my wife was so mad at me for doing. She says $3,000 was a steal. I go, yeah, but $2,500 was even more of a steal.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I bargained it down. Anyway, we bought it, and my shop foreman who drove us over there, me and him put gas in it, changed the battery out. In about 5 minutes, we had that thing purring like a kitten, and we drove it back, which the guy that sold the truck was not super happy about because he was mad that he sold a running truck for $2,500. And I told him, I go, no. I said, your truck didn't run. My truck runs.
Yeah. My truck runs, not yours. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
nicely done.
So now I've got the 55 window, short bed straight six back that I wish I'd never sold. And then now my son, who's 11, he'll be 12 in February. Me and him are actually taking that truck apart. And I've got a 5.3 and a 4L60 and some stuff like that. And we're going to build that for him. And that's going to be his first car when he's 16.
Oh, that's nice. Another awesome story, Jeff. That's fantastic. Well, what has you excited and fired up in this new year about Heartland Customs?
I think the latest development that we've had here is I was able to secure the license from Yinko in 2018 to do authenticated real deal Yinko Camaros and Chevelles. That was always kind of the car. I remember I had the Hot Wheels. I had the 69 Yinko Camaro, and it was black with white stripes, and it had the black and white houndstooth interior. And I still remember the little Hot Wheel car. I wish I still had the little car, but I remember playing with it as a kid, and I just always knew that the Yinko cars were just the king of the muscle cars back then. They had the cool Corvette 427s in them and bigger brakes and better suspension and wider tires, and they were just awesome. So I knew that our spec program where we started out with the Corvettes. We started there and we partnered with the National Corvette Museum, and those have been a huge hit. We've got a pretty extensive waiting list on those right now. But I knew I wanted to get over into the Camaros. Just, that was my first car. I love Camaros and Chevelles. And so it made sense for kind of our top of the line, top tier Camaro and Chevelle to be a Yinko, because that was kind of the top tier Camaro and Chevelle back in the day. But I didn't just want to clone them or have them be tribute cars, as people call them. I wanted it to be the real thing. I wanted them to, Yinko to be on board. And so that's what I did. I sought them out. I showed them my designs, my pricing, all that stuff. They loved it because they truly do look exactly like the original Yinko cars. But now every single function of the car is 2018 and beyond, down to the turn signals hidden in the mirrors, and everything is just like a brand new sports car. But when it drives by, other than the paint and the fit and the finish on the car being extensively better than it was in 69, other than that, it looks exactly like the car, even down to when you open the hood, the engine. The original Yinko Camaros had the big block 427, and we've taken the LS7, which is 427 cubic inches also, and made it even look like the original Yinko big block 427, down to the valve covers, down to the spark plug wires. I mean, it's crazy how detailed the engine is to where it looks just like the old car. So everything to the interior, to the gauges. Now Dakota Digital does us some amazing gauges that look exactly like the 69 gauges, but now you've got the little LCD message boxes built into the gauge cluster. So it tells you the outside temperature and what gear you're in if you got an automatic. And
nice.
It's all backlit and it's LED, and you can change the colors. And it's just amazing what we can do on these cars to where we can modernize every single function of the car, but still make it look just like we did. And then now you can have those cars and have a letter of authenticity from Yinko. It's the real deal. And they're real bodied Camaros. There's some other guys out there that are using Dynacorn bodies or some of the aftermarket bodies. Mm-hmm. And our license states that we use the real Camaros. So they're not kit cars like some of the ones that you see out there. They're the real deal. So that is, it's kind of crazy because we're building Camaro number 1, which is a black and white 69 Camaro with a white houndstooth interior, just like the Hot Wheels car that I had when I was a kid. That's Yinko car Camaro number 1. So we'll be finishing that car up in January. So everybody kind of keep your eye out. We'll be putting all that on social media and our website and stuff, so you can check that thing out. But that one's going to kind of revolutionize the muscle car market, I believe.
Yeah, no doubt. What awesome. Really, really happy for you guys, what you're doing. 2019 looks like a fantastic year for Heartland Customs. Well, here's a very introspective question for you, Jeff. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a car parked in the garage, what would Jeff?
Oh, man. That was tough. I would say Jay Leno's got a 55 Buick Roadmaster that I think if somebody told me to ride, it was like his first car, or maybe his wife went out on the first date in this car. It's a black and silver, and it's a resto mod. And I think that car, it's big and it's bulky. I'm kind of a big guy. It's fun to be around. It's fun to hang out with and stuff like that. But under its skin, it's pretty technologically advanced and complicated. And that's kind of how I am. Like, I'm just kind of maybe a little rough around the edges, and I'm a big guy, but I can pretty much hang right in there with the guys that are doing the computer stuff and all that, which is kind of why it works out in here, because I get to be a car builder and I get to be dusty and dirty and, blocking cars and painting cars and things like that. But then our technology side is what sets us apart here by being able to integrate in all those brand new comforts and amenities that people are used to today. So that would probably be, that's a really complicated answer to probably an easy question, but that would probably be what I would be.
I like that. That was an awesome answer. Very well thought through. Well, Jeff, up next is the last lap before we put the pedal to the metal. Let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. What's the worst thing for your car's interior? No, it's not that milkshake the kid spilled in the back seat. It's the sun. Harmful UV rays cook your automobile's interior, hour after hour when it's parked outside, even on a cloudy day. What's the solution? Covercraft sunscreens. They protect your dash, seats, and interior finishes from those damaging UV rays while keeping the interior temperature tolerable, even on the hottest summer days. No more painfully sizzling seats and steering wheels for you. They unfold quickly and easily install, stay where you put them, and are custom patterned for an exact fit. The foam core acts as a cooling insulator, and you can get yours in different colors and finishes. And they even fold up easily and store under your seat or on the floor. I've used Covercraft sunscreens for years, and they are a fast and easy solution that protect my beloved cars when they're not in the garage. Learn more and order yours at Covercraft.com. Want to protect your entire vehicle? Get a car cover from Covercraft. They have those too. That's Covercraft.com, and tell them Mark sent you. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from the Cars Yeah podcast. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? That's right. Cars Yeah is now on MAV TV. I visit some of the past Cars Yeah guests and take you along for the ride. Go to mavtv.com to learn more where you can enjoy Cars Yeah TV. MAV TV is also available on DirecTV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through mavtv.com online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. All right, Jeff, we're back. We're entering the last lap. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Probably buy good tools.
Yes.
Bad tools are not, it's not worth saving $1 to buy cheap tools.
No, absolutely. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
Organization. Being able to, even like we were talking about tools a second ago, same thing. Being able to just open a drawer and know exactly where something is, it really helps out time management.
Oh, gosh. Very important when you're building a car, too. Now, how about a resource? There are lots of great resources for us these days. Is there one you'd like to share?
One of my favorite is probably Covercraft, which is covercraft.com.
Oh, yeah.
We've partnered with them last few years and hopefully for many years in the future, having vehicles in their SEMA booth. But their products are second to none. I actually went all the way to Las Vegas a few years ago to find the most high-end car cover company I could make. And then I found out that they are 30 minutes from my shop here in Oklahoma. So,
yeah.
But they're amazing.
You know, they have been a sponsor here at Cars Yeah for a long time, and I so appreciate it. I started using their covers back in 1975 when I was in high school. I was the only kid in my high school that covered my car. Everybody kind of knew me for that. In fact, sometimes they play tricks on me and they take my cover off and put it on other cars just to mess with me. But Covercraft, they do. And I worked at Griot's Garage for years, and we sold Covercraft covers for 20 years there. And I researched every cover company out there. I can honestly say they make the best by far. My cars are covered with Covercraft covers right now. They've got floor mats in them, dash covers. I mean, they offer so many things. They keep growing. So shout out to Covercraft. A big thank you to them. Now, if I could arrange to have a drink, I should say, with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
I think, I hate to plug Jay Leno again here. I feel like this is a Jay Leno segment. But he has such an extensive collection. I've never had the opportunity to go out there and see his big dog garage, but that would probably be a bucket list item for me, would be to kind of hang out with him for a little bit, maybe tour his collection and just pick his brain, because that guy knows so much knowledge about, everything from Duesenbergs to Delahaye's to Stanley Steamers. I mean, he knows everything about all that stuff. So that would be my choice.
My listeners, regular listeners, have heard this ad nauseum. I have tried so many ways to get him on this show. Someday I'm going to get him on the show. I have had the pleasure of meeting and talking to him numerous times. He's just the nicest guy, but he is a wealth of information. He's the real deal. Really is. I mean, a lot of people say celebrities and, they just have the money to buy stuff. This guy, he's the real deal. So, Jay, call me someday, Jay, please. Jeff and I want to talk to you. How about a book? Is there a book you've read that you think our listeners would enjoy?
Man, I remember I wasn't in college that long, but when I was there, I remember they had us read a book, and it was a late 1800s book, 1888 or 84 or something like that. It was called Men of Invention and Industry. And it was Samuel Smiles was the author of it, and it's a really cool book about the process of some of the world's greatest inventions, the cotton gin, the screw propeller, the things like that. And what was neat about it, and it really kind of hit home with what we do now and what we talked about earlier in this podcast was it talks about the things that they ran into, the trials and tribulations, and how they overcame them, and then, ended up, making these amazing inventions that now we use every day.
Awesome. Very cool. I think it's the first time anybody's recommended that book. And I'll remind our listeners, you can find all these great recommendations on Jeff's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Jeff Page, Page, and his page will pop right up. All right, we're up to the checkered flag here, Jeff, and this last question can be a bit of a doozy. Today, I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet. Doesn't matter what it is or where it is. I'm going to park it in your garage, but there's a couple rules to this little story. One is you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other cars with. You got to drive it, enjoy it. No garage queens here. I want you to get out on the road, and it's the only cool collector car you can have. That's the hard part. So what can I buy you?
I think kind of back to what I was talking about earlier, I was a real big movie buff growing up. So all the cars that were in these movies as I was a kid, and one that really sticks out, and be honest with you, I've never had the opportunity to sit in one of these, and I don't even know if I would fit in it. But there was a movie with Matthew Broderick called Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorites growing up. I think I even had the movie poster like on the back of my bedroom door. There was a red 61 Ferrari 250 GT California in that car that his buddy Cameron owned. And that car still to this day, when I see pictures of that car, that is one of the sexiest cars ever designed.
Yeah.
I think they're about the size of a Miata. So, if somebody could find a way to scale that up by about 25%, that would be the car that I would want.
I know this guy named Jeff Page who can take cars and do whatever you want with them. So I think I know the right guy to call here. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, if I bought you the one from the movie, it'd be a cheap Charlie, because that's a fake, as we all know.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking you deserve the real deal, which is going to quite a bit more. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. But if there's anybody that could figure out how to fit in that car and maybe modify it, I know there's some purists out there right now that their ears just started bleeding when I said that. But you know what? It's a car. You should do what you want. So I will get to work to find you Ferris Bueller's 250 GT. Beautiful cars, those California Spiders. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, you've taken me on an awesome ride today. Really enjoyed getting to know you better. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. It was so good to meet you at SEMA. That's an extra special, delightful treat. You spent so much time with me there showing me that beautiful Corvette that you built. Oh my gosh, in the Covercraft booth. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you drive off into the sunset in that California Spider?
Yeah, my wife used to watch a show called Project Runway. I think it's still going on TV right now. And they had a guy on there named Tim Gunn that was kind of their host. Yeah, he had a little phrase in there, "Make it work." I always heard that when I would come in and out of the room as my wife's watching Project Runway, that, they would give a box full of paper plates and have to make a runway dress out of it in 12 hours. And he would just tell them, make it work, make it work. I think that's kind of what you have to keep in your mind, is you have to make it work. Whether it's firing everybody that works for you at the time and completely reinventing your business and yourself at the same time, or if it's getting that screw or that bolt in, whatever it is, you gotta figure out a way to make it work, and you're the only one that can do it. So that would be my best advice I could give.
Make it work. And what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and Heartland Customs?
Our website is www.heartlandcustoms.com. We have an Instagram page at Heartland Customs, and we have a Facebook page, and we try to update that stuff on a daily basis. So check all that stuff out.
Yeah, you really should check it out, what Jeff and his team are building. Talented people, craftspeople. These cars will blow you away. And if you're in a fortunate position to have a car built, Jeff is the guy to call. Jeff, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your incredible stories, some wonderful stories with me today. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.